If you've been trying to burn stubborn fat, naturally boost your energy levels and anti-age, autophagy is where it's at. Autophagy is one of the best ways to get rid of cells inside of your body that are not producing energy, that are not burning fat, and cleaning out the junk. It's absolutely incredible how you could take this process and detoxify your entire body. In this lesson, I'm going to be sharing with you the #1 absolute best way to boost autophagy, burn fat. I'm going to share with you how to use fasting and the best schedules for fasting to enhance autophagy, what breaks a fast, some other things you can do to boost autophagy without fasting, how to gauge autophagy, and so much more. Let's dive right in. What exactly is autophagy? This is a process that gets turned on when all the requirements are met that I'll share with you. But this process essentially is your body's way of taking out the trash. Imagine this. Open up your refrigerator, you have all these groceries with an expiration date. If you let all the groceries inside of your refrigerator expire beyond the expiration date, and instead of throwing those expired groceries into the trash can, you kind of just shove them towards the back of the fridge, put them in the drawers, buy new fresh groceries, put them in front of the old expired groceries, what's going to happen? Disease will manifest in that environment. Your human body is the same way. You have cells and proteins and mitochondria, these little battery packs within your cells that all have an expiration date. The science shows 60 billion cells need to be recycled every single day. Enter autophagy. Autophagy is the process of getting rid of these expired cells and groceries and putting in fresh groceries. These groceries and cells burn fat, produce energy, anti-age you, help you feel incredible. It's kind of like Pac-Man going within your cells, looking for damaged cells that are not burning fat well or producing energy and eating them up. Autophagy means eat thyself. It's an amazing process. When you enhance autophagy with the methods I'm going to share with you, you burn fat, it improves mental clarity, metabolic flexibility, and it also extends your lifespan and health span. But here's the deal. You blunt and lower autophagy when you have a hormone called insulin elevated. So everything I'm going to share with you today lowers the hormone insulin, which activates autophagy and helps you get all of these amazing benefits. So let's start with the #1 best way to activate autophagy. That's going to be fasting. But it's not just any fasting, it's keto fasting. This combines intermittent fasting with ketosis. Here's why it works so well. I mentioned insulin. When you eat carbohydrates and eat food frequently, you're going to spike glucose and insulin. This blunts and lowers autophagy, meaning you're in a fed state. What we want to do is shift your metabolism into a fasted state, where you're harnessing that innate intelligence to get rid of those bad cells. Every single cell in your body, all 70 trillion of them, are hardwired for the old school. They're hardwired to practice intermittent fasting. So here's what happens when you don't eat food for, let's say, 16 hours. Your metabolism thinks, whoa, we must be going through a famine. It doesn't understand that you could go on your phone, click on an app like Uber Eats or DoorDash and have somebody knocking on your door with food in about 45 minutes, or you could walk to your kitchen and get food. That doesn't make sense to your metabolism. So it automatically thinks you need to clean out the junk. So it is so smart. Your body is so sophisticated. It looks for damaged cells for energy first. This is the Pac-Man process of autophagy, going for damaged cells and proteins and mitochondria and fixing them up. And it helps these cells produce more energy and burn more fat. Fasting is one of the best ways to harness this. So here's the protocol for you. There are 3 different ways to practice fasting to really enhance autophagy. The first method is a 16-8 daily intermittent fasting schedule. That means out of a 24-hour period, for 16 hours, you're fasted, no food. And then for 8 hours, you're eating your meals, 2 to 3 meals within that 8-hour eating window, which could be from 12 to 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., however you want to do it. But the goal is to eat insulin-friendly foods during your eating window. This is keto. This is low carb. That means you want to eat more protein, more fat, less carbs. You want to keep your total carbohydrates under 50 total grams per day during that eating window to stay in this autophagy state. This flips the metabolic switch from storing mode to recycling and fat burning mode. The second method is a 24-hour water fast once a week, where you essentially just have one meal within a 24-hour period. You can go breakfast to breakfast, lunch to lunch, or dinner to dinner, but for 24 hours, no food. Simply put, let's say you're done eating Sunday at 6 p.m., you would fast all the way until Monday at 6 p.m., getting 24 hours of this fasted state where you're enhancing autophagy hour by hour, lowering insulin hour by hour, burning fat, producing energy, and getting all of these incredible benefits. The third way here to enhance autophagy is the most powerful way, and that is a 36-hour fat burn fast, where you go without food for 36 hours. It might sound crazy, but I'll put things in perspective for you. I've done a 5-day water fast. My first one was in 2018, and I was already lean, and I still had enough body fat for energy to get through that fast and feel incredible. And if you don't know, the Guinness World Record for the longest recorded water fast is over a year. It's 382 days. Angus Barbary did it. You can see his photos here. He went from 450 pounds on day 1 to 180 pounds on day 382. I'm not saying you gotta fast that long, but a 36-hour water fast, every hour in that fast, you lower inflammation, you lower insulin, you complete digestion, and at that 16-hour mark and every hour after that, you're enhancing autophagy. And autophagy is incredible because not only is it fixing cells, your metabolism also goes a step farther, where if a cell has no function, it's called in the scientific literature a senescent cell. I call it in my brand new book, Metabolic Freedom, a zombie cell. These are cells that do not produce energy, do not burn fat. They inflame you, they make you feel tired and fatigued, and they cause weight gain. When your metabolism goes through autophagy and has determined these are senescent cells, we can't fix it. It sends a signal for something called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, which is essentially a zap to get rid of these zombie cells. And then it produces a stem cell. Stem cells are all the rage in the anti-aging space. You can get it for free with fasting. Around the 24-hour mark of a fast, there's a huge increase in human growth hormone. Studies show 2,000% increase in men at the 24-hour mark of a fast, and a 1,300% increase in women at the 24-hour mark. As you go into the 36-hour mark, you're getting a lot of fat loss. You're getting a lot of autophagy. So that's the 3-step method. I would not recommend doing that 36-hour water fast all the time, but depending on how much extra weight you have, you could do it every other week or once a month. So you have a 16-8 daily intermittent fasting schedule, a 24-hour fast once a week, and a 36-hour fast either once a month or once every other week to really maximize autophagy. It's important to stay hydrated during your fast, have water, electrolytes, and minerals, and when you break the fast, especially when it's 24 hours or 36 hours, break it very slow with bone broth, let's say eggs and avocado, or even a protein shake. Before I move on to some bonus things you can do to enhance autophagy, studies are actually showing if you have most of your calories earlier in the day, so with your intermittent fasting schedule, if you choose to have breakfast and lunch and skip dinner, you actually get more autophagy. There was a study done by Dr. Courtney Peterson from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. This is really cool. She took 2 groups, and everything was controlled in a lab. 2 groups. They all had the same amount of calories, same amount of food, everything was controlled. The only difference in the 2 groups is that one group had breakfast and lunch, the other group skipped breakfast and had lunch and dinner. And after just a few days, they saw in the group that had breakfast and lunch and skipped dinner, they had 22% more autophagy and 10% more of their sirtuin genes, these anti-aging genes, activated versus the group that skipped breakfast and had lunch and dinner. Now, you'll still get autophagy if you skip breakfast and have dinner, but the best way to do it is to skip the dinner part. All right, let's move on to the bonus ways to enhance autophagy. If you want to go to the next level, add these autophagy accelerators. The first one is going to be cold exposure. Whether it's cryotherapy, a cold plunge, a cold shower, or jumping in a cold body of water, essentially that shivering process is where you get all these amazing benefits. It activates autophagy because it's a mild stress to your body where it creates vasoconstriction, short term, where blood flow is sent to your organs for this vascular massage, and when you get out of the cold exposure, it's back to your extremities, creating an immune system boost, a dopamine boost, and also a testosterone boost. But it activates cold shock proteins and it enhances your mitochondria to create more energy, which helps you burn more fat. And that stress of the cold temperature activates autophagy. It doesn't have to be much. You could spend 30 to 60 seconds in a shivering environment and you'll get these benefits. The second way here is sauna, heat exposure. It could be a very hot shower, infrared sauna, steam sauna, or dry sauna, but getting into an environment where it's forcing you to sweat, where it's very hot, activates heat shock proteins and autophagy and mitochondrial health as well. I tend to get about 90 minutes of sauna every week to achieve these autophagy benefits. I usually get them in increments of 15 to 20 minute sessions. So if you have access to a sauna, great way to boost autophagy as well, especially when you go into the sauna in a fasted state. The third way to boost autophagy is fasted exercise. When you go into a workout, whether it is a high intensity workout like sprinting or interval training or a strength training workout, you're going to boost autophagy. Strength training and high interval intensity training both boost autophagy, whether you go into it with a meal or go into it fasted, but you get more autophagy going into it fasted on an empty stomach. So what happens is when you're strength training and doing these workouts and sprinting and cycling, you're pushing your body to get rid of cells that are not functioning well for energy via autophagy. And when you get sore from your workout, that's actually autophagy. My legs are a little sore today from my workout yesterday, and the back of my arms and triceps are also sore. Soreness is actually autophagy. So strength training is a great way to achieve autophagy. The more muscle mass you start producing, the more autophagy, the more insulin sensitive you are. So if you're not strength training or sprinting or cycling or swimming or playing basketball, put that into your routine and boost autophagy. The fourth way to accelerate autophagy is with organic black coffee or organic green tea. These are loaded with antioxidants and polyphenols, and it actually boosts, enhances autophagy. For example, green tea has catechins in it, which enhances autophagy and enhances fat loss. And then black coffee, when it's a good organic brand, also has chlorogenic acid in it, other polyphenols that enhance autophagy. So my favorite green tea is from Peak Tea, and my favorite coffee is from Purity Coffee. You could get Purity Coffee over at ketocampcoffee.com using the coupon code KETOCAMP for 15% off, and I'll drop a link for Purity Coffee and Peak Tea in the notes down below. The fifth way to enhance autophagy is through something called senolytics, and that's probably a word you haven't heard before, but senolytics are certain nutrients that when you consume in a supplement form boost autophagy. So one of them is called spermidine, which is a weird term, but it's actually from a wheat germ and it enhances autophagy. Berberine is another herb that enhances autophagy and helps with insulin sensitivity. Certain mushroom and mushroom extracts, cordyceps, lion's manes, also boost autophagy. And I'll drop links for certain supplements that I take during a fast or in a fed state to enhance autophagy in the notes down below. Now, before I get into some of the most common questions asked about autophagy and how to test for autophagy and so much more information I'll give you in a few minutes, I want to recommend you order my new book, pre-order it today, called Metabolic Freedom. And if you do order it today, you'll get an entire course on the metabolism, 12 lessons where I teach you how to burn fat, how to use fasting the right way, ketosis the right way, the best foods for fat loss, the worst foods for fat loss, and also exclusive interviews with Dr. Jason Fung, Megan Ramos, Dr. Daniel Pompa, and Cynthia Thurlow. You can get all that for free when you pre-order the book over at metabolicfreedombook.com, and I'll drop a link down below. Let's get into the Q&A. First question is this: how long do I need to fast before autophagy kicks in? Now, it's different for everyone. The more metabolically healthy you are, the faster it'll kick in. The more metabolically challenged you are, the longer it'll take. But on average, around the 16-hour mark of a fast, you're starting to enhance autophagy. If you're more active and do that fasted exercise during the fast, it'll happen even much faster. So 16 hours. And how do you test for autophagy during a fast? Well, the way that I use it with my students is looking at blood glucose and blood ketones. We use a device called Keto Mojo, which you can get over at ketocampmachine.com, and I'll drop a link down below. But what we want to look for during a fast, when we're looking at your blood glucose and ketones, you would prick your finger with the finger prick. It'll draw a little blood. You put the blood on a glucose strip, put it into the meter, it gives you a reading. Use the same blood, put it on a ketone strip, put it into the meter, and it gives you a reading. And what you want to do is test 2 or 3 times during the fast, whether it's a 16-hour fast, 24-hour fast, or a 36-hour fast. And you could test more often during a longer fast. But what you want to see to know if you're getting this enhanced autophagy is the following. You want to see glucose drop periodically during your fast and ketones rise. That's the trend we're looking for autophagy, when ketones are going up and glucose is dropping. That's showing, for me, an autophagy gauge. If you're not seeing that, you might want to do keto a little bit longer, low carb a little bit longer, fix your sleep, and then test it again. So we'll drop a link for Keto Mojo down below if you want to test that. The next question is this: what breaks a fast? What stops autophagy? To me, what breaks a fast is what stops autophagy. That's my definition of breaking a fast. And the following, let's go over the following top questions I get asked about. What can I have during a fast? Black coffee. I mentioned how that could enhance autophagy, but for a subset of people, it actually could break a fast by raising glucose. The only way to know is to test your blood glucose before the coffee, 45 minutes after you have the coffee, and see if there's a glucose rise of 5 points or higher. If you see that go up 5 points or higher, it is breaking the fast. But if it stays the same, the glucose stays the same, or it drops, you're safe. It's different for everyone. I could tell you this, when it's a clean source of coffee, like purity coffee, usually it's safe for a lot of people because it's clean, it's not contaminated like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Supplements, can you have that during a fast? You can have minerals, electrolytes, but I would stay away from fat-soluble vitamins like vitamins A, D, E, and K during a fast. You want to take that with a meal for the absorption of those fat-soluble vitamins, but magnesium, potassium, minerals, electrolytes are all great during a fast. What about flavored electrolytes like stevia, xylitol, and other flavored electrolytes? Can you have that during a fast? I would say to have that during your eating window, and instead, during your fast, have unflavored electrolytes. That's gonna be much better. Personally, I love Beam Minerals. I use them during a fast. It supports a fast. You could go over to beamminerals.com/ketocamp, use the coupon code KETOCAMP for a nice discount. We'll drop that down below. What about bone broth during a fast? Well, that's gonna break a fast. This is called bone broth fast. And there's benefits to a bone broth fast, but it's not a traditional fast. If you wanna get the most autophagy, just water and minerals during a fast. Next question is this: is fasting safe for women, especially women who have a menstrual cycle? Women definitely practice fasting differently than men, and women who have a menstrual cycle practice it differently than women who are postmenopausal. So for the menstruating women, the way that I talk about it in my books is to not fast and not do keto the week before your period. This is a time to build progesterone and estrogen, which are 2 key hormones that help with that monthly menstrual cycle, and you don't build it with keto and fasting. So that's the most important time to remember. If you're watching and listening and you have a menstrual cycle, you don't want to do much fasting or ketosis the 7 days leading up to your period. Once you have your period, those 2 weeks after, go for it. You're designed to fast during that week. That's the protocol to accelerate autophagy. Go do it and share this episode with a friend. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the entire lesson. And if you love this lesson, I just published a brand new lesson on how to tighten loose skin. And I talk about autophagy even more in this lesson. So check out this clip. I'll see you in that video. And I've used this protocol on thousands of students all across the world. Whether you have excess skin from weight loss or just general excess skin, this simple 6-step protocol is gonna help you naturally firm your skin, make it look nice and tight in just a matter of 30 days. How do I know that, and how is that such a bold claim? Well, your skin